Hey, welcome to this week's Table Talk podcast. I'm Caleb, and I am joined by David. It is Tuesday, January the 14th, 2025, and the snow is melting. It's almost gone, and we are back and in living color for Table Talk podcast. David, how are you?
I'm good. Had a huge weekend at TCTC. It was great. It was snowy but and icy, but it was a great weekend, and I think there were lives changed. I know there were. We had some baptisms, and we had people dedicate their lives to Christ, and we don't always say like, hey, come, or we don't say like, come forward and do, what we typically do is say, hey, raise your hand if you've made a decision. Leaders, check back in with them. So here in a little while, we'll get more information on who the amount of decisions made. I know in one of the electives, he had over 40 that said, like, I'm making a decision to be a man of God, and it was like all guys elective. I want to be a man of God, and I know what God has, and so like amazing, amazing things happened, and for me it was cool to be able to see it come together.
For sure.
And to be able to be a part of that, and to see people fight to be there, because it was bad weather and stuff. People came early, people slept on the floors of churches and all types of stuff, all to make sure that they could be there for TCTC.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you didn't know, David was the chairman this year of the design team for TCTC, so he had a big hand in, along with some other folks, in picking the theme, booking the speakers and the talent, and it was really cool to see all that come together, and really awesome to see kids respond in worship and in just kind of acceptance of who Jesus is. And for those of you who got to watch our online service Sunday, I hated that we ended up having to do a snow day, and you're gonna have that. But I thought the coolest part of that was that you got to see and be invited into worship at TCTC. You got to see what our students were experiencing, and that was a really cool thing, really special. It's always a little choke up moment for me when you see kids worshiping, and it was really, really, really nice.
That was the best part of the week for me. Seeing all the concerts, all that type of stuff. That was neat. But the thing that I like was like, oh my word, there it is. That's the best part of the week for me. Was I was up front and I could see all the students that were like piled, because they always run to the front of the stage, and they're just piled up there, but they're worshiping. They had their hands in the air. They're experiencing God in really cool ways, and for a lot of them, it could be the first time that they're experiencing them. So that was, for me, that was the biggest. That was the highlight of my weekend. Was being like, oh, look at those kids are worshiping. They're leaving it all there for God and pouring themselves out, and it was really cool.
It was awesome. It was very cool. Speaker was great. Tim Barnett, SEU worship from Southeastern University, did a great job. Josiah Queen was awesome. No Big Deal was great. I mean, it was really cool. You should look some of these folks up if you're interested in some new music or some new teaching content. It was a really good weekend, and so great job, you and your team. Way to go. And it was really cool to see so many folks from Westtown serving too. A lot of it behind the scenes that you wouldn't know about. And it's really cool. Kind of left up there feeling like proud pastor moment, I guess. It's like, oh man, look how cool like it is to see our church really getting involved in serving, and very, very cool.
And it's all volunteer led. So you have over 200 people who are there to serve, and most of them in a volunteer capacity. And so and a lot of those people are from Westtown, and they're spending hours and many of them weeks leading up, and hard work and thought, and pouring into something like this to make a place for. We ended up having 4,000, a little bit over 4,000, something like that, students at this conference. And that's with all the snow and with all like
ice and treacherous
we
conditions.
So like typically 5,000 over 5 students that are there, and they're there and they don't know all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but so many people are involved, and so many people do things that they probably feel like, well, it's not that big. I didn't do that much. But when you have 200 people doing it, it's like, wow, this is
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get a chance, I think some of those services may be available for live stream.
Definitely.
I'm not sure if you get on the TCTC website, so definitely go check those out. Yeah, go check those out. And for us here, we just wrapped up a series called Rethink, and we are starting a series this coming Sunday called Plant the Flag, which I am really excited about. We got to put the bumper video together yesterday, and it's got like some punk rock music to it, so I think that's fun. But I'm really excited for that series, and really going to be diving into over the next 6 weeks, kind of our identity as a church, what we are kind of planting our flag on, but what we want to be about. And I really think that is going to be fun to introduce, our mission, to introduce our values, to introduce where we're going as a church, at least for the foreseeable future, what we're trying to be about here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great series. I'm excited to hear about it. It's been tons of work, a lot of work from behind the scenes that, as you guys are talking about these things on Sunday morning, a lot of people won't know the hours and the prayers and the time spent just developing this plan.
Yeah.
And what we think God is calling West Towne to do, and what West Towne should be for us, for the next generation, for years to come. And I'm excited to get that all out on the table and for people to be able to hear it and see where our hearts are.
Yeah.
And I think it's where West Towne's heart has been
for a long time.
But hearing it all out there and be like, hey, this is exactly what we think and what we feel like God is calling West Towne to be.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It has been a lot of work. It's been a lot of, for those of you who don't know, and a lot of it we've not talked about, but we've spent the last year as a staff and as elders engaging in hours of meetings, of prayer, of conversation, about, specifically trying to figure out how God has wired West Towne. Like, who are the people we have here? What are the giftings we see in our people? What are some of the core themes of some of the stories we've seen here in the past? And what does that mean about where God's taking us in the future? And so that's what we've been wrestling with and working on. And it has been really a full reimagining of what, what we want to be about here. And like you said, it's not a massive change. I actually think it's further honing in on what West Towne has historically been about for a long time, just putting some more structure and more kind of clearer pictures around it, clearer frames around it. So I'm excited not only to teach on it, but I'm excited to move in this direction as we talk about navigating Knoxville towards wholeness in Jesus. What does that look like? Yeah. And spoiler alert, that's what we're going to talk about. Yep. Sunday is navigating Knoxville towards wholeness in Jesus. I kind of introduced that concept a couple of weeks ago, but what does that mean? What do we mean navigate? Why are we focusing on Knoxville? What is wholeness? What are those kind of three big concepts there that I'm really excited to dive into, and I think really will make a profound impact and change on how we do ministry. I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah. Not in a scary way, but I think it's going to enhance what we're doing.
Yeah, I think definitely, and I think what I think people are going to be interested to see is how much we've poured into word by word. Mm-hmm. Everything that we've taught through, we have reasons for it. If you talk to anybody on staff and you want to know why we chose navigate, or if you want to know why we chose Knoxville or whatever, it's like we can probably talk to on each one of those subjects for an hour because we have just poured into those word by word and prayed over them and thought about them and changed them and or brought them back or whatever. Like we've wrestled through each one to make sure that it's exactly what we feel like God is calling us to do, and that when you hear it, you get an idea of what we're about and why we're doing what we're doing. For sure. And so I think people are going to really enjoy it. I think it should be exciting to people to be able to hear those things and to be able to see like, oh, here's the vision. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, you're right. Some of those words we've wrestled over all of them. We prayed through all of them. We talked through all of them. We've Googled all of them. We have brought them out, brought them back, and really, I feel a peace about the statement and the words, and I think they're all rooted
biblically. I think the concept is rooted biblically, and I think the way that concept gets lived out is going to expand the ability of our church to lead people to Jesus. One of the things that we've really been passionate about through this entire process is we don't want to be a church that is just focused on Sunday morning. I love our Sunday morning worship. I love getting to teach. That is, one of the few things in my life I feel like I'm okay at, and it's not even about me. It's just the point of being able to engage with God in the text and share it together. Like, I love that. I love what we do on Sunday mornings. But that can't be all that we do. And, Jesus did not spend all of his time in the synagogue teaching. Jesus didn't spend all of his time in the synagogue listening or reading or worshiping. He did spend a lot of his time doing that, but that wasn't the only place he spent his time. He spent a ton of his time out among people, living alongside them. And as situations and circumstances came up, he used those in the context of the relationships he's built with them to teach them something about the kingdom of God. And I think that's our call too. And Jesus was God embodied in the flesh. We have the Spirit of God indwelling in us. And so Scripture says the same power that raised him from the grave lives within us. And so that should be encouraging and empowering for us to go out and build those relationships, be in those contexts, put ourselves in those situations so that when the moments arise, God can use us to teach others about the kingdom.
Yeah, and I think that's important because that's to think about is like Jesus. I think Jesus lived a life of worship. He worshiped his Father in heaven, and through prayer and through teaching and through his relationships. And I think when we're trying to live a life that's just surrounded by God, everything we do, every moment of our lives should be a moment of worship and a moment where we're thinking about him and how this affects my relationship with him and my relationship with others and stuff like that. Every conversation we have, how it can change. It can change lives. And I've become more and more and more convinced of that. Me and you are having conversations with people at Chick-fil-A and they're crying.
David's making old ladies cry at Chick-fil-A when he asks them how they're really doing.
It's like, how you doing? Fine. And then when you say, oh, fine, and people are hurting, and they have real things that are hurting and they're struggling with. And when you take time and you pause and you pray with them or you just hear them, it can change a life. And I'm so excited because I think that's what everybody in the church wants to do. I think the church wants to change lives. I think the church wants to be God's hands and feet and go into Knoxville, the Knoxville area, and change lives. And I just can't wait for this to for us to capitalize on things that we do well already, and then also invest in things that we're excited about, new things, and invest in old things that we know are right there in our mission. So it's gonna be a really cool time.
I'm very excited about it. I'm kicking off the sermon series this week, and should be fun. I want to look at some local contexts where the followers of Jesus found themselves. So like looking like Acts 17 with Paul in Athens, looking at Acts 1 where Jesus commissions them to go first to Jerusalem, then to Judea, then to the ends of the earth. And just kind of really highlighting that Jesus and Jesus' followers, even if you see in Paul's letters, were super concerned and with the context of the place where God had put them. The way Paul did ministry in Athens was very different than the way he did ministry to Jews in the synagogues. And so for us, that means we have to understand our context. We have to understand our city. We have to understand our county, the type of people who live here, the struggles that they have. We need to understand those things so that as we are seeking to move with them towards wholeness in Jesus, we're doing it from a place of knowledge and empathy and compassion, not from a place of superiority or as if we've got it all figured out. And I hope that that's what people take away from the statement, is that when we're saying navigating Knoxville towards wholeness in Jesus, we're not saying we've got this all figured out. We're not saying we're navigating people towards us or our way. We're saying we're trying to lead people and really walk alongside people towards wholeness in Jesus. It's a journey, it's a direction, and it's a destination that we don't fully know how to arrive at, but we know the person who can get us there. Yeah. And so that's the point.
Yeah, I think we all think like the one doing the navigating is God, is the Holy Spirit, and we just want to come alongside people and help them, and to be like, hey, I'm walking this too. I'm trying to navigate my life, and I'm trying to live my life for Christ and trying to follow Him the best I can. And so it's not a come do what I'm doing or be who I am. It's, hey, there's a calling from God for us to come and live like Him, to love like Him, and to have a relationship with Him. And we want to walk alongside you on that path.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to dig into that. I think it's going to be really fun. I think we're going to have some exciting conversations on the podcast as well as on Sunday mornings over the next few weeks. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, you're not going to be doing any kind of flag planting.
I don't know. We'll see. Things. We'll see.
Okay.
If Ohio State loses next Monday, it might get real interesting the following week. We'll see.
We'll all be Catholic.
That's right. Probably ought to edit that out. On that note, thanks for listening to the Table Talk podcast. It might get real interesting in a couple of weeks if Notre Dame wins, actually. But no, it's all good. Hey, hope you guys have had a great week. Hope you enjoyed the snow days, and we'll see what happens with the weather for the next few weeks. So anyways, Kaleb, David, we're out. Have a great week, and we will see you on Sunday. Never bet against the Catholics.